G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute. Today I'm joined by Lemming and Billionaire Ninja. How you boys both doing?
It's a good day.
It's a
Lemming,
good day today.
it is a good day. We are having some technical issues with Discord though today, so if either of these gents go robotic or pixelated, I do apologize in advance, but it's out of our hands because Discord's just chucking a fit. So please bear with any technical issues we will have today. The usual Inforunners people were not available today, but I've grabbed Lemming and I've grabbed Billionaire Ninja. Lemming is, how would you describe yourself, Lemming? You're one of our mods, but you help a lot with the upgrades and stuff, don't you?
Yeah, I help people with the CCUs/upgrades, and also a mod on Discord. So
Yeah, and you'll probably help me do the guide again for the end of this sale as well. And Billionaire Ninja, you don't really need an introduction, but yeah, where can people find you on the interweb and what type of things do you do as well, mate?
So Billionaire Ninjas is the YouTube channel, and of
Mm.
course on all the other social medias, it's Ninjas Leap.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the stuff I do, I've been reviewing ships, and I do um a lot of other content. I
Mm.
following in the Inforunners footsteps. I do the same stuff Inforunners does, but a little better.
Oh, yeah, yeah, well, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. A bit of healthy competition. Bit of healthy competition. All right. Well, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and thank you to anyone that extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. Right now, all the work is out of the way. We can get on to the fun stuff. So I'm going to kick us over here to the web browser. So we've obviously got Crusader today and Tumbril to go through. We will be specifically going into the Intrepid in a buyer's guide that'll come out later today for you guys. And these boys are going to join me for that. So we're not really going to go in the Intrepid too much. This is more about just the AIE stuff. And if you're wondering why I separate them out, is mainly because the Intrepid video, people will come back and watch that. This AIE video that we're doing now is most people will watch it once and then the sale's done and they won't watch it again. So it's for future prosperity type thing. Right. Lemming, you want to talk about the M2 CCU war bond before we move on?
yes, so the M2 War Bond, people were begging for it for like 2 years, and they wanted it really really bad. We got it. I want to say it was about 4 or 5 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's back. So I'm not sure how many people are actually going to buy this because we just had it
Mm.
after not having it for a really long time.
Yeah. So yeah, again, if you missed it, it's there, but it's not AOE. There will be one tomorrow probably as well too. They usually do two, don't they? And they swap them on the days. So yeah, it's very hard. I'm finding it's a big risk gamble to buy them before the final day. Like last year, I think you said there was one or two that were worth buying. It turned out of those ones that you brought. So I tend to just skip them all because you're gambling whether they're useful or not, aren't you?
Well, this one's a little bit different in
Mm,
that regard because it covers a range that's not going to be covered by anything else.
yeah.
So it jumps from 485 to 520.
Hmm.
Um, you can't really cover that with anything else. So if
Yeah.
you need this isn't a bad CCU. I just don't know how many people still need it
Yeah.
because, like I said, it was very needed and then
Yeah.
and now it's back.
And generalistically speaking, too, if it comes out here, it doesn't always come out in the final one, does it? So again, if it is one that you need, probably pick it up today. Yeah. All right, C2. Billing, your thoughts on the C2, sir?
I think the C2 is in a kind of odd place right now because there's a lot of good options below it, a lot of good options above it, and like directly above it, you have the Ironclad, which just
Mm,
seems to completely outclass it. So, I guess it's for the person who really wants to just do vehicles, doesn't care about tractor beams, and maybe just wants, I
mm,
guess the baby pocket carrier where they can
yep.
shove a bunch of stuff in there and then go out on a bunch of missions with their friends. I know
Mm,
a group that I play with all the time. They do that. They
yep.
they get a C2, shove a bunch of stuff in there, and then it's like we'll just go do whatever. So I get the appeal of it, but it's
Yeah.
definitely in a weird place.
Lemming, I think you'd have to agree. At its current price point, he kind of hit the nail on the head there with the Ironclad, yeah.
Yes, this anybody that knows me knows that I have serious problems with this ship. This ship is a vehicle carrier. It is not a cargo ship. It is a very, very bad cargo ship. In today's game, it is okay. But goodness, have a plan away from it.
Yeah. I have everything they're saying there. I totally agree with. I remember when this thing first came out, and I said, just wait till another vehicle ship drops, and then the Liberator dropped. And I argued, it's kind of like a famous episode now. I argued with Sia and Paul for an hour and a half about this ship when we were doing a tier list show. And yeah, just as time's gone on, it looks worse and worse. And it's the same thing. Anytime the first of its kind type of drops, especially when it's very generalistic, like a cargo transporter, you know it's generally going to be the worst thing. And we've seen that, like if something comes out and it's the first of its kind and it's not super niche, generalistically it means that there's more to come to follow. To give an example, the Liberator versus the Liberator Assault is another example. And I fully expect eventually we'll probably see another competitor to those two that just does the ships, as an example. As for the C2, I think the Hercules series, believe it or not, and we can probably bunch these together a little bit. It'll be here somewhere. I'm going to find it. Yes, I am chopping where we're going. Bear with me. Is actually here. I think this is really where the Hercules series shines. It's more of a combat transport all of a sudden, which the Ironclad can't do as well, but the Assault can, right? And I think even then you start to look at the price and you go, well, now the Ironclad's around, this drops off even more. You know what I mean? So this is where it was at, but now it's fading even more so. Do you guys want to speak on the? I know I've just chopped it into the M2, but I'm trying to talk about the Hercules. We'll go back to the A2 as well, right? But is there anything you want to say? Because I think this reinforces your point, Lemming, is why I brought it up.
So I'll go ahead and jump in first.
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard to not be really negative about the ship.
Just speak the truth. Just say it like you see it, mate. Don't no need to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, they expect
these ships should be half the price that they are.
Yeah, they're definitely overpriced. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if these ships were half the price that they are, then I could make an argument for pledging these. But they're so much better at these price points. I mean, for example, the C2. When you look at the C2 and compare it to the only ship at its current price point, which is the Reclaimer.
Yep.
The Reclaimer is the same price as the C2.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, and they increased their prices, and I think that's the problem. These things came in and they were just sold on hype, and that's the problem with hype pricing. As time goes by, they look worse and worse. So, yeah, Billing, is there anything you want to add to about the M2 there? Or I think the Ironclad Assault is a very fair comparison between these two, with the C2 being the Ironclad competitor and the M2 being the Ironclad Assault. Yeah, I think that's a really fair.
Yeah, I think all the way until the Ironclads existed, I would have said I really liked this one, or at least liked it more than the C2. Maybe not really liked, but liked it more than the C2.
Yeah.
But now both of these variants are they seem like very like they're just not worth it. And the we could talk about the A2 later, but I feel like the A2 just doesn't fit with these two, but it's still overpriced. But
I think the only thing really going in the Hercules favor over the Ironclad series is essentially you need less crew for these. But if anything is proven during this Save Stanton event that's on at the moment with the Polarises, is people are more than happy to get together, work on other people's ships. And we don't even have a group finding system yet that we know that's coming, or NPCs that can fill gaps. So when you start to add all this stuff together, this huge fear of not finding crew that's been going over it's not going to be a thing. It just isn't going to be a thing. Because there's something very joyful about being on that Polaris and working together that you just cannot duplicate. And it'll only get stronger as we move from combat into utility and engineering and all those other cool little things that are going to come along. All right, let's go back to the A2.
So,
yep. Oh, yep. Go ahead.
So to just hit one more thing. So You mentioned the Polaris.
Mhm.
The Polaris has an internal tractor beam in the cargo bay.
Yep.
If the C2 were to gain an internal cargo bay tractor beam, my whole idea of the ship would change.
To be
But I don't think
honest,
it's going to, because it's not a cargo ship. It's a vehicle mover.
it may though, right? Because this came out before tractor
Yeah.
beams. It may, and I'm going to be honest. If we were all fair and honest, I think it needs one. I really do. Even with just the internal one, or even one on the chin would be really cool, right? I don't think it's
But
going to hurt other ships around it for it to have one.
but here's the issue.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it can't change, but they specifically said the reason it doesn't have a tractor beam is because they
Yes.
wanted it to be a vehicle mover.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they wouldn't go back on it, because
Yeah.
they came out and said that. And
Yeah.
I think that's why they would push
Agreed.
against that and just be like, nope.
Mm.
If you want to move vehicles, you get that one. If you want to move
Yep.
something else, you get something else.
Yeah, and I agree on that. But I'm saying I think now looking back in hindsight, I don't think most people would mind if they did give it one though, right? Because it's that disadvantage now. But again, as I said at the time, it's really hard to have the foresight on all of these things. And I didn't even take the tractor beam stuff into account when I was saying this was bad, because again, like you said, it was clearly tailored at vehicles, and I knew there were going to be better vehicle movers coming. And this price point really kind of proves everything. Combat ship at $750. This is the same price as a Polaris, and now both of them are in game. You tell me if that's worth a Polaris. No way, mate. No damn way. It is like what?
Yeah.
Like half the size at best, you know?
And I'll talk about this one as a A2 lover. And I will still say that most people, the 99% of people should not be buying an A2.
Yeah.
I personally like the ship, but I'm also in the I have 30 ships club. So like me getting an A2 is like an extra add-on, right?
Yeah.
It's not something
Yeah.
where I'm gonna tell people go out and get an A2. I do think it is separate from the M2 and the
Yeah.
C2 in its utility though.
Agreed.
Because it's a much more rounded ship and it has all those turrets on it, so much more open to like the group gameplay aspect. But yeah, if you don't have a Polaris, I would not understand why a person would get an A2 if they don't already have a Polaris. Or
Even in
something
combat
like
though, all the turrets face downwards, right? And for $25 cheaper, you can actually get a hammerhead. Believe it or not.
Well, what I
If
will
you're
say
really
about the turrets, though,
if you can get over the bombs and you like the turrets, buy a hammerhead because it's cheaper. Anyway, say what you're gonna say.
I would just say about the turrets. So if you got a decent pilot, you can get all those turrets on target. And
Yep, you can.
I've played with it and I've seen better pilots than me do it, obviously. But
So let me
you
add
can
this
get those
then.
on
Let me
par.
add this, because this is going to throw everything you're saying to works. This is an in-atmosphere bomber. Show me how you're going to fly upside down to shoot the thing above you when the atmospherics come in. You're not going to be able
With the
to.
bombs?
You're not going to be able to. It's got VTOLs. It has to face the VTOLs towards the ground to stay in atmosphere.
Oh,
So
I
how
get
are
what
you
you're
going to go
saying.
upside
Yeah.
down and shoot something above? You're not going to be able to. And it's an in-atmosphere bomber. What type of ship is an in-atmosphere bomber and it can't shoot above itself? It's got a massive
You are
flaw.
definitely catching the flaws there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In atmosphere, it's not going to be.
But it's an in-atmosphere bomber. This is where it's meant to go.
Yeah.
So it's got a huge ass flaw that it can't shoot above itself. It's like it's like a guy carrying a shield and he's walking backwards. It just makes no sense. You know. So yeah. Again, there are just better combat ships, and I think when the Paladin drops, this is going to look even worse. You've got the Perseus, the Polaris, the Nautilus, the Hammerhead, and I guarantee when the Paladin drops, this is going to look shockingly bad. So yeah, again, people brought into the hype. All right, let's try and get back to the C2. E1 Spirit. Let's do the Spirit series. So they put them all out of order. C1 Spirit, I think where the Spirit series is at for me, $125, it's pretty reasonably priced. I think when you get into the other two, the E1 and the A1, it goes a little bit off the rails for the same problems as its older brother, the C2 series. Lemming, your thoughts on the Spirit series, mate?
I actually disagree with you because I think the E1 is where it's at in this series. It feels like the E1 is why the ship was made, and the other two were kind of come-alongs.
Yeah, I could
Of hey, well, we have
Yeah,
this.
I agree with that
yeah,
as well.
I can agree with it why it was built, but I still don't think that's where it's at for the price. Because again, it jumps quite considerably. Like, we've just jumped $25 and lost all the cargo carrying capacity. You've essentially changed your cargo to people. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
You changed your cargo type.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I will agree that this is probably what it was built for. Yeah, I'll give you that 100%. Yeah,
The E1 is I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it's a more unique ship out of all the ships that we think about, right? Because you have the
not
Genesis Starliner.
not anymore.
Go ahead.
We know the Zeus ST is in the files again. It was the one they advanced at CitizenCon last year. It's also a passenger mover, so it's probably going to be
Okay.
hopefully similar to
Yeah.
this. We'll have to wait and see. I could be completely off the mark, but it's coming through as a passenger transport vehicle as well. So,
But I'm saying at the time this was made, right?
yep.
Like the Zeus ST probably, even if it was a thought, like this was $150 for a passenger transport, like a
Yep.
full
Yep.
passenger transport ship. We have no idea what that gameplay is going to be like, how much money it's going to make. So
Yep.
it's hard for me to say that
Yep.
$150 isn't worth it until I know like
Yep.
how much money the ship has the potential to make.
Yep.
But as a competitor to, or not even a competitor, but as like a lower variant of, you know, like the Genesis. You know, this carries less people. That one might have better weapons and stuff like that.
How about this is the
150
compromise then?
seems like a
Pick up a C1 Spirit and then pick up a CCU to distance in on it. That'd be the compromise of not making a mistake if you like the Spirit series. That I think we can agree on that one, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep. And then I think if we go to the A1, where the hell this is, I have to go through and find that. Oh, we've gone backwards and forwards today. There it was. The A1. I think this is the one that is insane.
Yeah.
$75 to gain bombs, and there's not really anything to bomb at the moment. Eventually, yeah, but it just, again, you're paying for that combat tax.
So,
Yeah,
to the people that have done Save Stanton, I haven't actually bombed one of those sites prior to landing there because of the guys now on the ground. And the kill missions in Save Stanton, I just haven't thought to bomb those sites.
You can't.
So maybe
you can't.
You can.
So we were in a Polaris and we were torpedoing them, and they have tents above them, and the tents are actually blocking the explosions from killing them. And that's a Polaris torpedo. So if a Polaris torpedo can't kill them, I don't see one of these doing it. But maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
Maybe they've got some kind of penetration. I haven't actually tested it, but if I'd assume in a size 10 torpedo, I don't think like one of these bombs that are small would get through.
I'm actually glad you mentioned that because I think that's where the bomb thing is going to come in. I think if you have a dedicated bomber, it's going to have some way of either surpassing a shield or it's gonna be better at hitting the ground than like something like a torpedo. But even still, at $200, I get why they have it. You know, people are saying I'm not spending $750 on the A2, and people are right. You shouldn't be spending $750 on that. But the A1 at $200 is still a little bit more expensive than it should be. I think this one should be $150 along with the E1, or maybe the E1. Or maybe 175 even if you're gonna press it, but I think the E1 should be the most expensive one out of the three.
Look, I think we can all agree. This is like it's the same thing. Have a C1, and if this really is your jam, you don't even need to have a direct upgrade from the C1 to the Spirit. Just have an upgrade for this sitting there, in case that's what you want to go to. But right now, it's just not there, and again, the E1 doesn't exist either. So for me, that's probably why I keep coming back to the C1. I want to. The E1 could be amazing. I totally will give you guys that one, but we don't have it in game. So
speaking of,
and there's so much.
We didn't really talk about that one.
Yeah, we can go back and talk about that one. Go ahead. What do you want to talk about it? I gotta find it again.
At $125, I think the C1 it's one of the better. Are we calling it an advanced starter? I know in my channel I say it's an advanced starter.
No, it's a medium ship, so technically it's not an advanced starter. It's actually a next series along. So the last medium starter at the moment would technically be, I think, the Nomad, and then you'd get into the Cutlass Black territory, and because that jumps a pad size, so it goes to medium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I love the C1. I think a lot of people underestimate the value of this ship, and I
Mhm.
think when the Zeus's arrived, that kind of showed the C1's value, because I
Agreed.
think a lot of people were expecting to jump ship to the Zeus, and then
Yep.
they were like, actually, the C1 does this, and this better.
Yeah,
So
it's not as pokey. And they deliberately, when I talked to Ben and John, they deliberately wanted it to be more pokey. It does feel more like a spaceship from today, but when you'd already made two spaceships that were like these long tubes, it was like going from a loft back to a normal apartment with all the walls and stuff. It just made it more cramped. When you got three people on the ship, you can't walk past each other because of the narrow doorways. It just doesn't work the same way these work. And while this one's a little bigger than the other medium ships because it's kind of like a pancake that lands, it makes up for that with speed. So I really like using it as an A to B vehicle. Not even really cargo runs, believe it or not, right? It's just the speed of it. And it is comparable a little bit to the Nomad. It doesn't, I believe it's not, is that right, Lemming? It's not quite as much cargo. I can look it up if I have to, but it does 232 SCU containers. And the Nomad, yeah. Sorry, Lemming?
So the Nomad, unless I'm mistaken, I'm not 100% sure on this. So
Yeah.
make sure to correct me in the comments.
Yeah.
It is, I think the Nomad's 24 SCU.
Yeah.
But it's has a very weird shaped grid.
Yep.
As opposed to this has
64.
a
Yeah.
very standard.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Shaped
this
grid.
does
So-
have more than the Nomad. Yep. I was mistaken. Yep. All right. No problem. It's been a hot minute since I looked at the Nomad.
And
Yep.
And this has a really nice place tractor beam. So
Yeah, where the problem with loading the Max compared to this is the tractor beam is fixed only at the back, and it's got such a narrow door, it's really hard to load stuff in. This tractor beam can also rotate around and go onto the top, so it's just got the best tractor beam of any ship. So yeah, I think the defenses is where it falls apart. But again, its defense is running, so I'm not problem.
Yeah.
I think that's a boon because you can get to places faster as well. Anyway. Genesis Starliner, so the bigger brother of the E1. I think we could, this is the E2. I think you guys would agree with me on that comment. Obviously, it's going to get some form of rework because it was the first one that came along. I don't know if they're going to go with the older style of the Genesis Starliner, but it would be kind of cool to keep it in a way. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. At $400 again, I would much prefer this over a C2 at the same price. And I think this is another good example of what you were talking about, Lemming, with the Reclaimer being at the same price point as the C2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a concept ship that I am more hyped about than this one.
Oh, that's high praise. I'm starting to think personal transport is your area of expertise or joy. Okay, that's interesting to know. Your thoughts there, Billing? Go ahead.
I spent a lot of time doing it in Elite Dangerous. A lot of time doing it in Elite Dangerous. So.
Oh, there's a joke there, but I'm biting my tongue. But yeah. Yeah. Right. Go, Billing. What your thoughts on the Genesis?
So this is another one of the things that I recently bought, and I've finally come around to believing that this ship is going to be pretty awesome.
Yep.
And I also think it'll get a variant that comes along with it, considering I know that other ships may have filled that gap since they announced that Genesis variant way back when, but I do think it'll get a variant. And either way, I like what this ship is about, because this ship is it's like the perfect size. It's the guns on it I think are going to get upgunned, but I still think that passenger transport is going to be a very heavily underrated thing we do.
Yeah.
And I think at CitizenCon, them announcing that they're going to have that shuttle that allows you to go and pick up,
Yep.
go and grab your ship again.
Yeah.
I think that changes it to where I think they're going to push the Genesis to be more NPC pickup than it is player pickup, and I think that's better for it.
I think they might even build a different shuttle again, because this was if you go to somewhere like Lorville, they have a interplanetary and a domestic terminal. This is the interplanetary ship, and they'll probably that shuttle will probably the E1 could do it as an example, but that'll be more likely the domestic one. And then I'm almost thinking, what if they make an Intrepid that is literally just a shuttle transport? Because it's only for one person, really. You don't need as many seats as the E1, do you? I don't know. Just put that theory out there. We'll have to have a think about that one. But again, if you're not sure on the ship,
So I want to add something on this one.
just 1 second. If you're just not sure on the ship, but you think it might be for you, you can always pick up an upgrade as well and just sit on it, and then it locks at the price. All right, Lemming, you want to say?
So this ship could go one of two ways, and I'm okay with both of them. So it could go either one way. It could become the E2. It could become the Starlifter E2, Genesis, and more gain its body than what it currently has.
Yeah.
Or it could keep its current body, and we could get variants of this. I'm really okay with both of those.
Yeah.
Because if this becomes a Starlifter, it will utilize like the top layer of the Starlifter, which is one of my biggest problems with it. Is like people talk about the 600i having a lot of wasted space.
Yeah.
If you compare those two, man, the C2 wastes so much space in the ship.
Yeah.
It makes the it makes the 600i look good.
Go look at the MSR. It's disgusting. MSR is the worst I've ever seen. It's almost like half the space is empty. Yeah, I know Agrid talks a lot about this one having like troop transporter variants, cargo transporter variants, and also just normal people moving. So you might even find that it becomes highly modular. As Lemming said, they might get 3 different variants. I think we can all kind of clearly state that this was where Crusader started, but it's not what Crusader is anymore. So what they'll end up doing with it, as Lemming said, they've got multiple options. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. I think, again, with having the name G, I think we'll probably see like G1, 2, and 3 or something like that. Like we'll probably get a couple of different variants, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Right. Anything else?
I think this is a good time to mention. So I think this is a good time to mention to, if you are a CCUer or an upgrader or whatever we want to call ourselves now,
Yep.
don't apply upgrades to concepts. It's just going to lead to disappointment.
Yep.
Especially like old concepts, man. If you apply a CCU to a Crucible and the Crucible rework gets announced tomorrow, man, that could go in a really bad direction. So just don't apply them. Just let them sit in your hangar.
Yep. Well said. Well said. All right. The Intrepid. We will go into this in more detail. I think that's the last. Oh no, we've got the other ones to go through. We will be doing a buyer's guide on this shortly. Basically, it's another starter ship. I don't know. Is there anything you guys want to add, or do you guys want to leave that one for the buyer's guide?
I will say this:
it's cheaper than I
overpriced.
thought.
Yeah, me too. Sorry, go ahead, Billy.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be. I think it's a little overpriced.
Yeah. Well, they do have a standalone version that's a bit cheaper as well. So yeah. Right. The Mercury Star Runner. Data running cargo basically gives up offense for a little extra cargo. Is kind of how I see it. It's roughly Connie sized. It has a terrible layout, unfortunately, and they're probably going to address it when it comes back around to a rework. As I said, got a lot of wasted space in it too. Yeah, Billing, your thoughts on the Mercury?
I actually did this. I did this whole video, the Mercury versus the 400i, and at that time, I thought the 400i was gonna like take off and replace it. But since then, the 400i has become like the redheaded stepchild, so to speak, of CIG. So I think the Mercury is back on top. And even though it has like the poor feet on it, and it has the bad layout, I still think just at it still fills a gap that other ships just aren't really filling. Like the reason I'm gonna have one in my fleet is because I need something at that 100 SCU cargo range, right? But I happen to have an Atlas So this lacking a tractor beam doesn't really affect me. But
Mm.
but that's the thing with the Mercury. You kind of have to need it. If you don't, it's not one of those ships I think most people should just buy. I think the way it was originally marketed was kind of like, this daily driver ship for everybody. And yes, you can carry a vehicle in it. Yes, it has 14 SEU of cargo.
Yep.
But I don't think it actually is that. I think what it really is like, do you need data running? Do you need, that exact amount of cargo?
Well, eventually you'll have to assume that there'll be more dedicated data runner that comes along, and then it won't be as appealing. And I think that's when the nail in the coffin will probably happen for this ship. I could see a medium or even a small. Like, look at the Herald as an example, right? The Herald and this are the only two real data runners. I think we technically have the Raven, but it's out of most people's scope now. People can't grab it anymore. So realistically, if they say made a medium ship that did just the data running component of this, then you would have to ask why you need something that does both, that's a large ship rather than a medium, so you can get away with something more fuel efficient or something like that, right? So again, we'll have to wait and see as time goes by. Lemming, anything you want to add? Oh, go Billing, if you got something to say, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the price increase is what I think kind of does it in. At 225, you could justify it a lot more than at 260.
Again, you got the Crsd there as well, and the
Yeah.
the Connie's just a little bit more again, and the Connie does everything this does except the data running, but it's got better guns, so it's offensive versus utility. It really is what you prefer. Lemming, anything you would like to add about that one?
So how good or bad this ship is going to greatly vary depending upon how data running works out. So if data running works out, meaning that you need to land on the ground, take a vehicle to go pick up a hard drive at a bunker or something like that, then this ship is really going to excel at that, because a dedicated data runner isn't going to have a garage.
Yep.
It's not going to have, you're going to have to walk in.
True.
But if that's not the case, and data running isn't that, then like with the
can I just
guild talk,
can I just add to what you're saying there? It's also probably going to have more likely more crew and more guns and turrets as well, so it is also a little bit more defended as well. So that they're all good points. That is all good positive points. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. With the guild talk that happened at CitizenCon, and like, I thought one of the big selling points of this ship a couple years ago was being able to do both cargo and data. But with the guild system coming out kind of the way that it's going to be, and I think they said that you can really only work for one guild at a time. Like, you can go change your affinity, but that kind of knocks that down a couple pegs for me.
Yeah.
So it's really more small vehicle and then data running, and if that is actually useful or not remains to be seen.
I can imagine there being some, I think right now when we think of data, I mean, we just kind of think of it as like being stored in those servers, but I can imagine there being some like physical hard drive type of things that you have to take, like old tech
Yep.
type of things where you're going, and technically it counts as a data running mission, but it's also cargo because you have to physically put them in your ship. So like they could expand, because I don't think data running is going to be as simple. It's easy to think of it as like, oh, it's just you get a digital signal and you put it on your ship, but
Yep.
that's not going to be as fun for most people. So I think they're going to, in their efforts to make it fun, I do think I think the Mercury is where they're going to start. I
Yeah.
honestly think that when they were
You
thinking of what the gameplay is going to be, I think they were like, the Mercury is whatever it is, we're going to focus
well
on the
the
Mercury
other
being the center of it.
the other part of it is hacking and the being able to
Yeah.
steal people's and stuff, and that's not there yet. So we're not going to see data running until the other, because you need to have the offensive and defensive, and it's just, yes, just carrying the data is a part of it, but obviously this still has the satellite scanning dish on it as well, so that it does have that hacking mechanic where you can take it or at least receive or send the data. So until that comes in, again, it's a cart before the horse problem. We don't have all its gameplay. All right, we need to move on. Nope, we're moving on. Too bad. Right, Ares Ion and Ares Inferno. For me, these are both ridiculously overpriced considering the ship we just looked at. $10 more and you get a Mercury Star Runner. I just can't justify them at all at their current price. Again, this is one of the whole things when it comes down to Inforunners, so are your fighters. They will have their time in the sun, but at $250, I just cannot get behind them in any way, shape, or form. Lemming, would you like to talk on the Ares or Ares Inferno? Iron or Inferno?
I don't know if I have seen a worse caption on a ship than what's on your screen right now, where it says laser equipped capital ship killer. Anybody that has been in a Polaris this week knows how those shields hold up to an Idris. I mean, we took a railgun hit in a Polaris, and the Polaris was like, I just don't have any front shields right now. Oh, wait, 30 seconds, they're back.
You can see how it's going to work, though, right?
This...
You can just to be honest with you, it's a 2-ship system. This thing's going to be taking down the shields, and then this one is, because it's got the armor. This one's going to go in and actually do the hull damage. Right? That's how it's going to work. And again, this is not just these 2 ships. This is an incredibly like a fleet of small ships taking them out, right? Because these things are not are going to be terrible against fighters. Its own size class is its enemy. They need to be covered and looked after so they can actually take down the capital ship. And at the moment, especially the way they're treated like they are fighters because that's all that was in the game right now was fighters. So they've made them act like fighters, but they're not going to act like that. They are not going to be good at taking their own kind out. The Inferno maybe, but the Iron, no. That thing's a sniper. It's going to be sitting way back, doing massively charged shots that do huge damage. You know, this type of thing. And you might be able to do normal shots like pew, 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 and maybe then you can shoot a fighter, but its real damage is going to be these massive drawn out charge shots. You can kind of just tell the way it's going to work if it's a sniper ship. And the only other sniper ship in the game besides that is actually the Banu Defender currently. And that they both are going to get a massive change when that stuff comes in. Because again, cart before the horse problem where their gameplay is just not in. Like alien ships across the board, they don't have their flight mechanics, and they're all awful because of it. So, yeah.
I think my biggest issue with it is, I think they should have been size 8s because the way that they fly, you would think
the
that
gun
they have
bigger. That'll solve
fly.
everything.
If they had size 8s, I don't think we would care as much that they don't fly like fighters because if they get that shot, then now we're feeling like it does have the power of a capital ship killer. But even without the size 8s, keeping what it has now, why doesn't this thing have some size 6 torpedoes or something like that to bolster its identity as a capital ship killer? And that's what my biggest thing is. I think they thought, well, if we put a size 7 on the front, that'll just be enough. Well, yeah, if it's a size 7 on the front and it moves like a medium fighter, absolutely. Now we're talking. But it doesn't move like a medium fighter. It's slow, cumbersome, and they make it seem like this size 7 gun is weighing it down when, yeah, it's big.
Can I tell you how I would have done
it?
I would have gone completely in a different direction. So there's 2 ways I've heard people say about this in the future. Like people have said, oh, wouldn't it be cool if it also had like 2 normal size 2 guns? And I heard that and I went, no, I'd go completely the other way. And what I would have done is put a turret on the back of it with a second person, and that person has 2 size guns to defend it from other things. That's how I would have gone. And again, we might see more ships like this in the future. But where this came out, it's just in a really weird place where it's it kind of is like a heavy fighter. That again explains the price point. Look at other ships that are in that price range, like the F8C at $300. You've got the, I think it's $300 or $330. I can't quite remember. You've also got the Scorpius that's a heavy fighter. You got the Hurricane now that's moved up. It's the smallest heavy fighter that's come up, and we're about to get the Mirai Guardian that also looks like a heavy fighter. So I'd be expecting that to be in the 220-ish area as well. They're all 2-seaters. This is not, and the only other non-2-seater that's a heavy fighter will be the Guardian, and well, I can't guarantee that yet because it's not out. But the Vanguard is the only other one. So there's not many single, and the F8C is way higher in price, right? You get my point, right? So most of the 2-seaters are lower in price. It's kind of a bit weird. but they're more enjoyable. That hurricane, if you've ever been in a hurricane, it is one of the most enjoyable things that you can do with another person in this game. I want to clarify that before someone takes me out of context. But yeah, it's just a very enjoyable teamwork experience, and it doesn't work in the Scorpius because of the different size guns. But can you imagine one person fully being on offense and one person fully being on defense? And you could, I could even see a version of the ship where it's backwards, where the turret gunner has the huge, massive gun firing backwards. So you fly, you kind of fly in and then turn around and fly away from the capital ship. And then the guy at the front is the pilot and the defensive guy. Like he's actually actively keeping the fighters off while the other guy's shooting backwards, trying to shoot the cat.
Yeah.
That could be mad. You'd have to put a really big gun on a turret.
That would be awesome.
But that would be mad. You know, so you're fighting on all fronts. I don't know, just
I will
probably
say this,
pie in
though,
the sky, but yeah.
I will say this though, I do think some of the Ares issues can be fixed with balancing, making size 7s a little bit more damaging to capital ships and fixing the flight profile on it. That would make it would make it better. It still wouldn't make it worth this price,
Yeah.
but it would definitely make it better.
All right, we still have one. God, I don't know if I've got the right one open. I probably don't. I'm going to have to go up here and do it again. So we've also got to do Tmrl. I thought I had it loaded, but I didn't. Right. So we've actually got Tmrl to go through as well. So my caveat is vehicles are not worth buying. Earn them in game because they're ridiculously overpriced. So almost every one of these for me is going to be a not recommend. But I know Billing is going to have a different take because he brought one of them, the crazy bugger. Right. So is there any? We'll start with Cyclone and we'll just go through. But I'm going to do the Cyclone as a series as well because they are all kind of weird spots. I think in time the RC will get a lot of stuff because of the scanning ability, but right now the Cyclone MT is where it's at because it essentially merges two variants together, and then the other variant is just essentially a cargo carrying variant. So again, at $75, we just had the Intrepid come out today at $65. So an entire ship versus a vehicle. You can see why I don't recommend it. But yeah, anything you guys want to?
Lemming has to say.
Hey, Lemming, anything you want to add to about the Cyclone, Lemming?
The MT is where it's at, but don't pledge them. Goodness, don't pledge them.
All right, Billing, try and talk us out about our sanity.
Right. So I don't know if this logic flows as well for everybody as it flows for me, but I'm gonna go for it. So I do think that there are 5 vehicles worth buying. Only 5. I don't think that any of the 5 outside.
We're only talking about Tmrl, and we're only talking about the Cyclone. But we'll talk about the one.
Right. I'm getting there.
All right.
The Cyclone MT is one of my 5.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for it is I do think it is the best of the Cyclones. My reasoning for purchasing vehicles now, it changed since CitizenCon, so you can probably see where I'm going, is now that you have these transferable warranties, right? And I'm thinking, why would I want to waste a transferable warranty on a Cyclone when I could just purchase one and just be done with the whole warranty aspect? I don't see people getting a transferable warranty as hard as they're supposedly going to be able to get and then putting those on these vehicles. So that means you're probably just going to lose the vehicle and have to repurchase it, or you're just going to have to get the credits back or whatever it is. And so for me, I do want to get my vehicles back. I do want to be able to use my vehicles over and over again and not have to worry about that. At the same time, I say that by also saying you shouldn't be buying vehicles. This is, again, a new way of thinking for me, is I don't think anybody should buy a vehicle until they have all the ships they want. And that may not be a thing for people. I don't think some people are like, well, I'm just going to keep buying ships, so that's never going to be a thing.
So essentially, to summarize, if you've already got heaps of ships, you can see the need to have vehicles as well. I will agree with you on that, but again, that's a big fleet person issue problem, not everybody. So yes, I will give you that as a caveat. But if this is your first, for example, you wouldn't buy a vehicle if you don't even have a ship, right? Going extremely to the other end. And if you're in the middle somewhere and you've only got 2 or 3 ships, your money is spent better elsewhere. Yeah. All right. Okay. No, I will give you the point though. Yes, I can see your point on the respawning and stuff like that. But yeah, as a whole, Yeah. Now this is the one you actually picked up though, didn't you? You picked up a Nova
Yes.
a Tonk.
So,
And for all the reasons you just described, I'm assuming.
yes. Plus one additional one specifically for this one. So one of the things I thought was interesting at CitizenCon was where they talked about, oh, this is a military ship, so
Mm.
obviously you can't purchase that. You have to go and build one. And I was like, oh, I mean, I think they had mentioned it before that you can't purchase military ships, but I guess it never clicked to me that there's going to be a higher bar, I guess, so to speak, to getting military ships in the game. And I would guess that getting a tank is going to be behind that same bar. So
Yep.
this is more of, for me specifically, this one out of all the vehicles, this is the one where I had to do like a time versus money comparison. I was like, let's say at your job you make, $40 an hour, right?
All right, Lemming,
So
I've got this. Lemming, I've got this. Here we go. No, thank you very
I was
much. No, thank you very much. No, thank you very much. We're done. Right, we're moving on. That covers everything. No, just no. Right. Ranger, $35. Not in the game yet, but I will say, as the bikes go, it is definitely unique compared to everything else. Lemming, anything you would like to add on the Ranger series of bikes? There is 3 of them actually. Or is it 2? God, I can never bloody remember. 3. There's 3.
Yeah, it's 3.
Yep.
The Rangers have a really big problem of hover bikes.
Yep.
Sure, it's going to be really cool to roll around on a Final Fantasy VII, a motorcycle with a sword strapped to your back, but it's gonna be slow. It's gonna be really slow.
Well, you also can't hover, so you can't really get away from danger as easily. It's probably gonna be more susceptible to different terrain. So what's it going to be like in sand? There'll probably be places where it can't even cross where the other bikes can. But then there's probably other advantages too, where in a windy situation, they're probably more locked to the ground. You know what I mean? Like, so the pros and cons, that's what I really do like about where they've gone with all ships and vehicles. There is no situation where, oh, that is the perfect thing for this situation.
But like hazardous environments, like acid planets and swamp planets and all of that, you're not going to want to be on the ground.
Absolutely.
Like the ground wants to kill you. Man, these things look cool, but I just have a hard time seeing them in a space game.
Again, that's probably why most of them are hover bikes. Let's be honest. Right? Is there anything you would like to add, Mr. Billing? What's your favorite variant, as an example?
I think the RC is the one out of these, oddly enough,
Really?
because I think racing is the main thing I would think to do with these. I think the style of racing would just be different than being on a hover bike. And I'm a person that's low key against racing. I'm not a fan of racing in most areas of this game. So for me to say that, that's a little intense. But yeah, again, I wouldn't purchase these outside of just like, again, like this, I'm all the way at the end of my wits with all the other ships, and I bought everything. So yeah.
Just realized something. I said RC is where it was at. I meant to say the RN. Because the RN's the scanning variant. So I just realized I said the wrong thing back there when I said that. For me, when it comes to the Ranger, it's actually going to be like, so if we imagine like a low-tech environment where you can't use a hover bike, but you've got to transport some goods, that's where that's the niche. I can see that there straight away, like a low-tech environment. And obviously for combat. I just wish that they had a variant that was cargo and combat, and you wouldn't even need any other bike. As in, you wouldn't even need the other 2 variants. Racing, you're right, they probably will have a ground racing thing, but if racing's not your jam, it doesn't even have any guns. So it maybe it's just a data delivery. You carry a bit of storage on your personage with a backpack or something like that. So again, we don't quite know what the future holds for some of these vehicles, but again, they will all have their place. But at $40, you get an Aurora for $5 more and the game.
Yeah.
Not worth it.
So I actually have.
Go ahead, Lemming.
I actually have a case that I'd like to make for these. Is that if you have like a referral ships and you really want a bike, man, spending $10 on
Yeah.
to or whatever it is to
Mm.
upgrade that referral token into a bike. If you really want a bike, that's the only time that I would say that these things are even worth considering.
I got a quad bike as a referral during CitizenCon. I might just do that. Yeah, not a bad idea. At least I get the bike I want, right? You know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
I
exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
I would rather have the $30 discount on
Mm.
bigger ships. So I upgrade
Oh,
mine all the
no.
way up.
Yeah.
Oh
All
no,
right.
we need to talk billing.
Yeah, Billing. We're gonna we're gonna beat him around the bush. Right. The Storm. So ironically, everyone thought, even us thought this was gonna be out. Then when it came out, this is where it was at because of the artillery nature. It just doesn't really hold up to what was delivered. It's a medium tank essentially that's in the large size tank category, and it's just a little bit weak and it doesn't move very well as it should. Again, to me, I think it needs a little bit of work. Well, it's just got a laser gun instead of a cannon, so it's almost competing directly with the Nova. But then, if you get a single shot on this, it's kind of damaged and done, because then it can't really fight back because it's just a laser turret. So it needs a better gun. Like, I honestly thought because it had a custom Hurston gun on it, the way it was named, it was going to be like a lightning gun, and I thought it was going to be like a distortion thing. So it basically ran into the back line where all the other artillery pieces were and shot them with distortion and disabled them briefly, and then stormed out again. But it's way too slow to do that. So it's not like, I don't know. It kind of pitched to me as really quick moving tank, but it's not. It's actually quite slow for what it does. And again, just having a little laser gun, you're talking laser versus an actual ballistic cannon on the Nova. It just doesn't stand up. Yeah. Your thoughts?
It's so pretty.
That's about it. Yeah. Again, this
Like
this one's sitting back.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
So one thing about the Storm that I think a lot of people missed, and including myself when it originally came out, the wheels on it are not actually. It's not supposed to actually just be like a faster Nova tank. It's actually supposed to be able to, like, the wheels on it are supposed to be able to do a thing where it can go over unique types of terrain, like
Yeah.
go over certain rocks and stuff like that. So it's supposed to be kind of like an ATV type of tank, and
Mm.
that's what those wheels are supposed to do, but that's not in game yet. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things where it's
Mm.
like, if it did that, would we think of it differently?
Well,
Probably not, because the weapons on it
they
still are subpar.
they did kind of mention that with the turret gun would be able to be raised up and down too, so you can kind of like poke it up from behind walls and shoot things. Yes, there are definitely more features on this tank that come online. Like, for example, with this one, if you can laser a sight as a troop and then they like artillery it, that will be huge as well. But again, this is a constant thing we're seeing, cart before the horse. But again, at $100, like, you're talking $10 to a Cutlass, $10 less as a Gladius, all the starter ships under the sun. Like, they're just so expensive for what they are.
$20 to a Nova tank.
Yeah. Right, so that's everything there. I need to go to the paints real quickly, so I'm gonna have to go back to the thing because we need to. Oh, sorry. Oh, and I'm going to the wrong websites all over the shop. Roberts, there we go. So we do have some paints, but they're mainly just for the Intrepid today. Actually, we can leave those for the buyer's guide, can't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave them for the buyer's guide. So that's been
so.
that's been day one. This has been a very long episode. It's almost an hour long. So yeah, a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. But we went over everything really, really well. And we've already done the things. I think we can just sign off. I think we're kind of cool. I guess comments. What would you like to hear in comments from people below? Mine is like, is Bill insane? Oh, no. I'm kidding. I'm teasing. But no, seriously. Like, are we sane? Tell us if you think we've given bad advice or good advice, or what you agree with, and what you disagree with. Lemming, is there something you'd like to hear from people in the comments below?
I'd like everybody in the comments to tell me how much I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I want somebody to change my mind.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Good discussion on things like that. Billing, what about you, mate?
Yeah, I want to know if people's opinions have changed about vehicles since CitizenCon, because I felt like I had this massive moment, but I feel like maybe I'm in the minority.
You had an
with that, so I would
epiphany.
love to know how people, Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know how people feel about vehicles now, if their opinions or anything have changed.
I think it's just always going to come down to cost. Like you can just always spend it somewhere. Again, if you've already got everything though, yeah, I can see where your thought process is going, but it just always comes down to dollars, and we're in a cost of living crisis worldwide. So trying to already spend like some of the things we talked about today, we go, oh, it's only $25, but you put that back to a normal full price game, and you know if you can get a game for $50 US, that's half a game. You know, and
Yep.
or even at $70, it's almost a third of the price of a game, depending on what platform you buy it on and what the quality is. That's a lot of money. You know, so we are dealing with a game that is already kind of overpriced what you pay for. So, and I think we do sometimes lose the sight of that a little bit. And again, I think all of us here would safely say you only need a Starship to play this game. You do not need to go further. You don't need to go right down the crazy train. And a lot of what we teach here, we've all been teaching it from I made a bunch of mistakes. Don't make the same mistakes that I made. You know, that's why we do this, because we just don't want you guys to fall in the same pitfalls that we've fallen into. And I guarantee all three of us here at some point have fallen into a hole at some point. So yeah. All right then. With that thing, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you to everyone that went the extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. He's been Lemming. He's been Billionaire Ninja. I've been Execute. We'll see you next time, citizens.